Chapter 13. The ceiling of my room took on a blue hue as I floated a baseball above me. Back in my room, lying on my bed, everything from the day seemed like it was a dream, but the power was very real. I spun the ball, bounced it off the ceiling, and dropped it to within an inch of my nose, all effortlessly, as if I had been doing it my whole life. My mind drifted back to the conversations of the day, and visions of seekers and hunters came to the forefront of my consciousness. I then learned an important lesson. Never practice floating things above your head until you're sure you won't drop them. The ball came crashing down at the speed of gravity. Fortunately, because of my awesome sports-related reflexes, I was able to catch it with my face. That'll leave a mark, I said, clutching my right eye. I would have been pissed except for the euphoric feeling that I got after using the power. That gave me an idea. Why not try to fix myself? I marched over to the mirror and looked at the reddish mark on my right cheekbone with a small scratch. Not much to fix, but a good place to start. I put my hand on my back pocket and felt my wallet containing the picture of my mother. Felt the power build within me, and the room shifted a slight shade of blue. With my fingers lightly touching my cheek, I breathed out a cloud of cool air and envisioned the cells coming back together, the skin repairing, the scratch healing. Nothing. I pulled the picture out of my wallet and tucked it in the frame of the mirror, just inside my peripheral vision. Like before, I felt the power focus inside me, and again, nothing happened. So they were right, I said to the gorgeous guy in the mirror, who looked like a badass with a now swelling cheekbone. Who you looking at? I said in my best Italian mobster accent. Earlier, after Gladys dropped me off, I refused to commit as to when I would be around again. Everyone wants to solidify your schedule for you these days, and I'm just too free to deal with hard and fast commitments. Hence the lack of any kind of steady relationship, and my life in this apartment alone with the tough guy in the mirror to keep me company. Whether or not they actually leave me alone is yet to be seen. I worked my way over to my favorite 88 black and white friends waiting for me, and immediately fell into a minor D chord and right into some smooth jazz and Duke Ellington. Naturally, that brought me back to Tiffany, the lounge singer from another era, stuck in the body of a modern-day cultural deviant with self-esteem issues. It was only the night before when she threw that awkward kiss at me, which brought me to another conclusion. She wasn't very good at seducing anyone. Kind of a good thing if there was ever going to be a second date of greasy burgers. My mind flitted between Tiffany and the group back at the flat, which I pictured still sitting in a circle waiting for me to return. No ego issues here. After a few minutes of the Duke, I decided to give Max training a try. I grabbed the first book my hand touched inside the piano bench and pulled out Country Favorites for Piano. Laughter jumped out of me as I remembered how desperate I was to impress that girl. I doubted I could muster any good feelings while playing country, so I tossed it aside. The next book I grabbed was a spiral-bound book of Beatles music. Opening the book to the middle, I landed on Hey Jude. Perfect. I started in and jumped between the actual notes and fake chords shown for guitar, which are easier to play. At the bottom of the page, I felt myself getting anxious, and on cue, I pulled the air off the top of the page and nothing happened. Frustrated, I skipped back 2 measures and tried again to connect to a source. I decided to think of Tiffany singing and touching my shoulder while playing at the hospital. People smiling, me smiling, the page turning. Sure enough, the page turned, and I kept going. I jumped the beat a little to get to the end of the refrain so I could go back to the beginning and start the next verse. A smile was permanently on my face, and without even a deliberate effort or thought, the page flipped back. It almost surprised me a bit, since I hadn't deliberately connected it with a real person or event. The notes were flying now, and I worked the beat like I was desperate for tips in a room full of bankers. There were no cheat chords now, as I was fully into the second verse and nearing the end of the page. Sure enough, the page turned without a thought. Just my desire to see the top of the next page. Music poured from my fingers, from my soul, and the pages seemed to be enjoying the music as much as me, turning on cue with the thinnest of thoughts. As the song finally wrapped up, I smiled at my new discovery and couldn't wait to get back to Mac to show him. I plowed into the next song with barely a hesitation, and Eleanor Rigby carried me to the next page turn. I don't know how many songs went by before my giddy feeling was interrupted by a growl in my stomach. The clock on the wall must need new batteries because it says I've been doing this for over 2 hours. I decided to check on the nearly empty fridge one more time before heading out to get some fast food. Yep, still a half pack of bologna and some questionable yogurt, just like the last time I checked. I grabbed my jacket and hit the stairs at a run, an extra bit of energy in my step. The coffee shop was closing, indicating that we were approaching 9 o'clock. The pimple kid from the other night waved me over. "Hey, you were really wailing up there. Wish you'd come down and jammed a while. It's been pretty dead here. My name's Mike." "Finn. I hope I wasn't playing too loud. Just working on some new things, I guess you could say." "Well, you were nailing it. Come on down next time and keep me company." I nodded in appreciation, but was careful not to promise anything to the teenager. Let's face it, I was never going to come down and hang out with him. "Hey, since I got you here," I asked, "any weird people hanging about? I mean, weirder than normal." Mike thought for a while and shrugged. "Not really. A few hipsters and a middle-aged couple were here a bit ago. Before that, gosh, I don't really remember." "Never mind. I'm just expecting someone at some point." The question in my mind was, would it be a seeker, a hunter, or maybe even an Oryx? Or perhaps the most frightening possibility of all, it could be Gladys. I waved at the kid and headed down the block to grab some wings from the bar. My introverted side was kicking in, so hopefully I could find a corner to eat alone and collect my thoughts. In the back of my mind, a part of me was hoping to see Tiffany inside for some reason. Clearly, my grasp on sanity is slipping.